Vanakkam Chennai. All Maitri episodes are special, but this one is more than the others. Over the last year, we've built Maitri as a platform that provides a safe space for women to come together, celebrate their success, and discuss solutions to overcome roadblocks. As always, our speakers today represent all aspects of filmmaking, from acting and direction to cinematography and production. Aishwarya Rajesh, Malvika Mohanan, Madhu, Aparna Purohit, Reshma Khatala, Swati Raghuraman, Yamini Yagnamurthy, and Smriti Kiran. Welcome to Maitri. Thank you so much for joining us. Every time I start a discussion on this platform, it takes me a minute to just kind of take in the room. I mean, just look at who is here. It is such a proud, heartening moment. You know, when I was preparing for this, I had a conversation with Yamini on the phone. It got me thinking about different definitions that everybody has about gender equality. Because it's not one perception, right, of feminism or gender equality that people have. It is also very important to know what these terms mean to people because personally, I feel that patriarchy is so deep rooted that even talking about gender equality, the first thing that we have to do when we talk about gender equality is give 10 disclaimers. We don't hate men. We want to get ahead with our merit. We want an even playing field. We are not looking to annihilate men. We are not. So we go into the negative before we can even speak. So I want to go around this table one by one to just get to know what does gender equality or feminism mean to you?
When I started working and the deeper I got into the film industry and the dynamics here, the gender dynamics here to be specific, it came as a shocker because I'd never had to face something like that previously. So my conditioning was that, and then I had to face this, oh my God, so much of it is around male actors, which is again so normalized that so much of it is conditioning to elevate somebody of the male gender to a certain stature, especially if they're doing well in whatever field it is that they're doing well, that everything circles around that pretty much. But now that I'm doing back-to-back films, I think I'm feeling a very wide divide of a lack of author-backed roles for women, just well-written characters, instead of being a catalyst in the man's mission kind of a thing.
That is actually the reason why I left the industry in the first place.
Really?
What had happened for me by then was I had done movies like Roja and Anaya and Yodha and many other films in different languages which were like very strong roles for women.
Yeah.
Then I went back mainly into Hindi films where I was like resident in Mumbai, so I was a part of that and I've done a lot more films in Hindi. I was a part of the movies when action and action heroes were leading the 90s. Like the movies were all about fights. And we went there and of course I love dancing. I have no complaints. I danced a lot in all the movies, spoke a few lines of romance and shed a few tears with the parents. But after doing a few films like, where people said Roja, Roja, Roja. And then I would go immediately after doing that into that. Like I was totally unhappy doing that. Like my passion is an artist, to be an artist. My passion is to work. So, but when my shooting dates would come and I had to go to Filmistan and Kamanistan, I had a funny feeling that I'm not loving what I'm doing. And then I had done enough 9-10 years of work. I said, I need to quit. So the minute I found a reason, when I wanted to get married, first exit, I wrote a letter to people that I'm quitting. And the thought behind was that you guys don't deserve me. I mean, that was a lot of arrogance, childhood arrogance. I'm sorry to say that. But that was the sentiment I had at that time, that I want to do so much more. You people are not making that. I rather get married and have my babies and continue with my life. It's only when I left, I realized that I'm an artist. Let me just go back into the field and, like you said, land a role and then proceed.
From where I have come, I had no background, nothing. No, like my father was in cinema, but I lost him when I was 8 years old. People said like you're you're dark skinned, you're not fit to be an actor, you're like, you can't even be a junior actor, you can't even stand behind somewhere close to the thing and all that. I was like, okay, fine. So that is the problem, that I basically speak Tamil. That is also a problem. I should talk something like எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் தான் தமிழ் தெரியும், like that, you know. All that were there. I was like, okay, I didn't know. I was not groomed really well, like how actually an actor, I mean, heroine supposed to look like. I was totally a different person. Then I thought, okay, let me just do this. Let me try my hand in cinema. Let me like at least give it back to people who said I can't do it. Then I slowly started doing, and then I want to do a lot of female-centric films, and then I did a lot of female-centric films, and then I stopped getting opportunities with big stars and all that. And then I was like, okay, why am I not getting opportunities with big stars? Okay, then they were like, maybe their roles are not up to your level. That's what I thought. I didn't think.
But that happens. Yes. If that happens, when you do a scene with a, you know, a very, what do you call, male co-actor, and they go and see it on the editing table. If they feel that you've spoken or done something well, they chop that scene off or you off, or they come and reshoot. I'm like, why are you reshooting? No, because he wants to reshoot. But what about me? I've done well.
You know, I'm reminded of this quote by a British author called Rebecca West, who had said that every time, and I'm paraphrasing this, every time I express my sentiments that differentiate me from a doormat, I'm branded a feminist. I mean, what is feminism? It's just equal opportunity and equal rights. It is so tough. It is so tough to just get that. And, you know, you all were talking about being actors, and I just want to talk about being an audience. When I remember distinctly, you know, I was in a class when I was doing my film studies, and one professor, you know, walked in, a woman professor, and said, just close your eyes and imagine a scientist, a doctor, a director, an astronaut, a teacher, a professor, and what is the image that comes to your mind? And I remember as I closed my eyes, it was just men. Because all I had seen on screen were men playing these roles. And that is why representation is so important. I want to be able to see a female astronaut, a teacher, a professor, a director, a writer. And that is why this fight that you all are putting up with is so important. We need those role models so that it opens up a new world for young girls growing up in you know, different parts of this country. This is how they get their inspiration.
I think, and I will take the example of a show that we're currently making, right? It's with Amazon, Sweet Karam Coffee. We have 3 women as protagonists in the show. And for some reason, I have to always, like you very rightly said, put the disclaimer in place that we're not bashing men. We're not against men. They're 3 people, they happen to be women. Now, I've never seen a show or a movie about 3 male friends having to say, oh, it's a story about male friends and we're not going to bash women. I think for me, if we can just start talking about women as people and just say it's a story about 3 people, it's a story about 3 generations of people, for me, that's a win. And this is with regards just to SKC and just overall, I think I get slotted as somebody who does, oh, you do women-oriented stuff, you do female-centric stuff. No, I'm telling stories that come naturally to me. I'm telling stories that feel organic to me. And they happen to be women. They're people. They're every second person in the room. So I don't see why there needs to be this excessive spotlight on the fact that, oh, it's a story about women. It's a story about human beings. That for me will be a win when we're able to just say, this is a story, full stop. Yeah.
There was a recent interview in Hyderabad. The journalist asked me, "Enduku madam meeru female-centric films chestnaru," which means like, why are you doing only female-centric films? So I asked him a question. Can you go and ask this question to your hero? Why are you doing only hero-centric films?
Exactly.
Why there is a tag like female-centric, women-oriented?
When we are talking about our profession, filmmaking, I wish these few words doesn't exist. For example, women-centric, female-centric. And next is female technicians, female director. You're watching a film, you will never know who the director is until the title card comes. Or you will know later, or you will know even before. But you need not actually tag it to a female or a male director. We are technicians. You're still going to see the same picture. Doesn't matter who's handling a camera or anything. These two words are something that I wish never existed.
You know, one of the things that I want to add to the discussion is that, of course, we want an equal world and we don't want anything to be categorized as male and female. But the fact of the matter is our numbers are so low,
Yeah.
right? They are. And anytime a woman is at the center of a narrative or a woman is helming the film, producing, directing, doing anything, the failure is highlighted so much that, oh my God, she did this. But we are not looking at 80 to 90% of the things that men are doing which are failing.
No, even I want to add one more point
Yeah.
to this. When a female, and a female actor of movies don't do well, they brand her unlucky.
Exactly.
I don't understand the director who directed the film, the producer who produced the film. There are so many 150 people who are acting film. Who are in the cast and part of the crew. Only that poor girl, a poor heroine, who has come and done one small part, she'll be hardly anywhere in the film. 4 படம் ஓடலன்னா they'll say, அப்பா unlucky மா, அந்த பொண்ணு போட்டாலே படம் ஓடாது.
A lot of time people turn around and say, oh यार फिर से women के बारे में बात करेंगे. मैंने कहा अरे equality ले आओ, नहीं करेंगे.
Correct?
चुप हो जाएंगे हम लोग.
You know, this report that we had partnered with Film Companion and Ormax on last year had done a study of 150 films that released in 2022. And they had studied all the films across the industries. And the findings were startling. There were only 10% women in HOD positions. Not one woman who was a director or editor in all those films that were studied. Therefore, it is so important for us to have women in positions of influence where they can bankroll, where they can take these decisions, where they will ensure that these paths are not cut out, where they will provide a platform for newer voices, where they will open up doors for newer women to come in. It's really important. And I'm so glad that, there's a beginning with a platform like this.
Aparna ma'am has been ensuring there is at least one or few female technicians in her project. As a producer, you're consciously doing it. I wish if the associations, writers, directors, cinematographers association, art, if they have a good heart and if they consciously take an effort saying, if this film is happening, I would suggest. The Telugu Union, I want to mention, Cinematographers Telugu Union do a great job in pushing their workers. They make sure that every member gets employed. So when this happens, this is kind of a reform that they're doing.
The fact of the matter is that there are not enough technicians of genders other than sexualities, other than men, right? I want to know from you, I know you've just started out and it's early days, early years, but is there something that you specifically do or try and do to increase the numbers? Because last to last time when we sat down to do a table of Maitri, I actually tried to find out if there are editors and cinematographers who can be invited from the Malayalam film industry, and there were none. Of course, there's Beena Paul ma'am and there is Fatima Fawzia, but they're not actively right now working in technical departments that they were helming at one point of time. What can be done to increase those numbers?
Every craft that we pursue in the filmmaking, they have a set of union, writers union, directors union. Certain union, they are silent and certain other are really vocal about their reforms and they participate in workshops and everything. So power is everything when it comes to if you want to change something. So within my power, whatever I can do are certain things like if I'm shooting a film, I make sure and I hunt the film school pass outs, female who are looking for opportunities to assist. So I take them as my team member. And I have, her name is Deepika, and I'm sure in few years she will be a competitor. A competition, healthy competition is always good. She will be on the floor here, she'll be working. I'm very sure of that. Shobika and Deepika, there are two people here. And second thing is that wherever I find an issue, I voice it out silently. If it is getting resolved and it gets resolved, I make sure the people know. Why I'm saying silently and why not taking it to a media and public is that, as I already mentioned, sometimes things get addressed in a way that is not actually positive, but they think it's positive. they'll give a headline or they might, just to increase the viewers rate and everything, it can deviate into something that I'm not confident of. 5 years ago, while I was assisting, there is a unit, a light unit, where the ladies not allowed will be written on it. I'm very sure most of it would have seen it. So I did not find good about it because it's my workplace. I might or might not go inside a unit vehicle, but it's my workplace. It feels very bad when you go to your workplace and say ladies not allowed. So when I wanted to know about it, I was given reasons that was not even close to practicality. Just brushing that aside, that's not required now. But when I wanted to address it, I was addressing it to the president. So they mentioned once I become a DOP, the action would be taken. So I waited for 6 months and I got an opportunity to work with Halita ma'am, my first film. And once I got the name as a DOP, I addressed it and they have painted it all and it is not there. So that issue is solved. And that is a very little thing. Many people might think, so what if it is written there? How does it bother you? I would say go to your workplace and say, so-and-so is not allowed and you are the so-and-so. It's not required basically. So these little things will actually scare some of the female workers. They will feel like it is not a safe place to work with. So even little things matter when it comes. So I might address a few things like that. And if any of my team members or anyone whom I know has an issue, I might try to solve it.
Why is this? The hero is always getting older and the heroine is getting younger and there are no roles beyond 16. Like she'll disappear, 16, 20, and then there's no main protagonist. So, this idea that, I'm going to go write this, I'm going to go direct this. And then when I first started approaching these, when I came back and I was approaching, there were many people who invited me to talk and said, very good, all the best. And then, but, we don't have roles now. So we don't have positions for, fine. And then there were places where I heard, we have a lady AD already. Maybe you try in that production. If they had said there's no position for an AD, it's filled, that's okay. No, lady AD is filled. So we're progressive that way, that tokenism we've hit.
I mean, I remember reading something that Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO was the CEO of Facebook, she said that in my entire team, a man would not think twice before walking up to me and asking for a pay raise, but a woman will think 10 times. So she's like, I keep telling all the women in my team, ask for it. You may get it, you may not get it, but you have to stop thinking so much before you ask for it because we're so we keep thinking, have we earned this? Is the right time? Do I deserve it? Whereas men are just like, hey, great, can I have that? So that is a part, that's because of how we've been taught to think.
Right. The imposter syndrome that we're dealing with
Yeah.
constantly. Are we good enough? Is it us? Is it fluke?
Right.
Will we be able to repeat it? Can we give our credit to somebody else? Who can we give it to externally? Just never owning up.
Yeah.
I'll narrow it down. So one is generally inequality. When we speak about that, it is not just male and female. And now it's come to a point where gender, sexuality against men, because it's not just female that we're talking about.
Yes.
If it's in gender inequality, the predominant gender which is against all that we see for the inequality and discrimination is men against the others. Yes. That's how it is actually. That's a very broader subject. First thing, it starts from home. How you raise a child, parenting. That's a general topic that we're talking. So whatever parenting is being done, how they project it to the society, societal pressure and everything can also change a person, any gender, male or female. Their behavioral patterns and everything can change. Very practically speaking, that difference is going to remain and it will take decades to change. It is changing in a very positive way, but it will take time.
I want to know from the two of you, and then I'll move to Madhu, that in your journey as actors, and I know that both of you have been part of huge projects and have been appreciated. I know this question comes up, it's a cliche now, it comes up very often, but I think what you were saying, that you've had to, you've had scenes that have been removed without your knowledge and without you being consulted. You've not found meaty roles and have constantly hankered for those. How have you dealt with this? How have you navigated this?
Basically,
women in any industry is very, very tough. And being an actor, I mean, I always say it as an actor, I don't differentiate actress and, like that. So then this Kakamuta happened, and then everybody were calling, praising, and everything was happening around. But it was very surprising that I was not getting any offers at all. For almost 1.5 years, I was just not doing anything. And I was telling my mom, okay, let's take all the certificates from inside, dust it, let me just try some other job. I was like, what happened? Like, the people were raving about your performance. They said you're a good actor. And, people were like, so many big directors, the actors called me. I said, yeah, they called me, but none of them gave me an opportunity to act in their films. Even today, if you take my filmography, except for few actors like Dhanush, Vijay Sethupathi, Sivakarthikeyan, and Dulquer Salman, name it, few big actors, but coming to another actors who've actually appreciated my works, they've never given me an opportunity to work in their films. And then I just thought, okay, if I'm not part of, bigger cinema, the problem is there is a ratio here for an actor and for a hero, heroine. There is like this market issues, there is this, you need to have certain market and digital value, OTT value, satellite value. Everything matters, these days, like to be there to do something. And then, okay, let me just start try my hand in being a female-centric films. Like how do we else say, I don't know, because that is what we've been told, like, which we really don't want to differentiate in a male and a female actor's film. I got this film called Kana, which made really big impact. And then from there, I took it up. I started doing so many films. And then I did so many female-centric films from there. That's the starting point. And then I think till now, I would have done more than 15 films as a solo performer. But then even today, I always think, why are these big heroes not calling us? I mean, like me.
Because Aishwarya, you are the big name now. You charted out your path.
Yeah.
The thing is, yes, it's very unfair that the big, popular male actors are not calling you. But then the solution that you found for yourself is that you became the big actor.
I just decided, let me just be hero for my film.
Exactly. You get very well-written roles and parts.
So yeah, I'm very happy, good space that I don't have to, actually worry about all those things. I have my people who watch my films and I have my separate audience, and you won't believe, I'm not really saying since Aparna ma'am is here, but I know everybody would have watched Sulal here, and and I'm not really sure how many people would have got such kind of an intro, like a heroic intro. And everybody were talking about, what an intro you got, what a this thing you got. I was like, yeah, I am the hero of the show.
Believe it, girl.
So today, I don't know if I look back and I think from where I have come from, and then where I am today, I'm really actually very, very happy, and I'm just celebrating myself. That's it.
I've encountered like certain male actors, men in powerful positions, who know how to play the feminist card, like I am a feminist, I am like this card so well. And then you see how they actually are. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's so they know how to be woke, their idea of woke.
Any man who has to tell you that he's a feminist is not a feminist.
There are some people who, because it's so important to them to be known as, like, they even believe that they are feminists. But that the underlying, the stuff that creeps out, you can't tell them because they'll be so upset. You can't tell because they'll be like, that's not me.
Their idea of themselves.
Right?
Yeah.
I wanted to know from Madhu, actually, who's had and is continuing to have this sprawling career. In every interview, or at least that is the popular way of saying this, but people latch on to senior actor, senior actress, women of a certain vintage. I find all of them offensive. I don't think there is a way to frame your way out of ageism, right? You have to work very hard at that. A thing that human beings have made all these milestones of 40, 50, you can't do this in your 50s, you can't do this in your 40s. These are things we have imposed on ourselves. This wasn't something that came about naturally, that this is the natural order of things. So I want to know from you, who looks amazing, feels amazing, wants to do many, many things, if there was not labeling of age that happens in society, what are you feeling right now? Because I read somewhere yesterday that, what was it called? That youth is ageless. How do you feel?
And
How do you
aging is a
feel this?
privilege. If you're afraid to age, then you'll die. Who wants to die? Aren't we all living, we are all working, doing yoga, so we'll have a long life. Everybody is reading books on longevity. So if you're going to age, which is what our purpose is, to be healthy and age and live long, and if you're turning every decade, 40, 50, 60, how can you want to look like your daughter who's 20?
It's a losing battle.
You know, you cannot. So the thing is not to try to look young. The thing is to feel youthful, be youthful. It's not looking young. It's about being youthful. Yeah. When I want to go to a disco, I go to a nightclub and I dance. My girlfriends and I go, we wear mini skirts and go and dance. There are people who say, "Na 50 vayasla idella pottu poi aadring." I've heard. But I said, 50 vayasla in the kala coming to ungalke the problem. Now, coming down on a professional level, this is all life philosophies. But when you want to work on screen, just having the big screen, it becomes very difficult to get a role. Because I don't want to do Ajay Devgan's mother role, which is very probable because we were launched together, we are the same age, okay? But things are changing because Tabu also, who's of the same age group, we were all launched together. She and he did play the main role in some recent film. That is why I'm so extremely grateful for the change the industry has gone through. There is an OTT platform where you don't have to draw people into the theatre. You make good content, be your age, be your size, be your color, and tell your story. And kudos to people like all these wonderful women who make these stories and give opportunities to people like us, that we come back with our age. Today, I know people who, for the longest time, people who hide their age. When I recently put my 50 candles, I'm all of 54 today to announce. Somebody asked me, why are you putting so many candles? Just put one big candle. I said, because I don't want to take one day out of my life.
Lovely.
I have lived a full 50 years, I'm going to blow 50 candles, you know? And that's my thing. But this is all very good in life. But to make a comeback which is driven by numbers and all, you know, all those things, the logistics, which I cannot help, the society has to change, the makers have to change. Hence, so much gratitude for platforms such as this and women such as you wonderful people.
I know there are a lot of things that happen on a daily basis. Even if we want to forget about our gender, we are reminded of our gender. I want to start with Aparna. Tell me one thing that has made you suddenly aware of the fact that I'm a woman.
I got a call from a mainstream Bollywood director, told me that he has a very interesting female-oriented script, very feminist, and he believed that I would love it and, you know, if I could go and hear the narration. And the story was about this woman who had been discriminated against because of her color, and how then she decides to take the reins of her life in her hand and fight against the society. And I was just looking at him wondering, like, what is the story? And then he looks at me and says, I know it's very personal for you, right? You would have experienced it yourself, you know, your color, your height, right?
Seriously?
You would understand the pain of this woman, right? So I'm just zapped. And my jaw sweeping the floor at this point. And so I told him, you've just reminded me. Thank you. And then he said, so, what do you feel? So I told him, discriminated. Thank you.
Malvika, any lovely, enlightening stories that you could share?
I feel like to begin with, what happens is that there is a certain idea. Even with our dreams, we're told to dream a certain way. So when you're embarking on this whole journey of being an actor, the idea of being a successful female actor that's sold to you is that if you work with the male biggies, that means you've arrived. You know, that is the benchmark of, it's like Aishwarya kept saying, like, why are they not calling, you know? So that's what every female actor in this country, at least, I mean, I don't know about other places, I've worked here, is made to feel like that if you're doing a film with a Talapati Vijay, with a Prabhas, with a Shah Rukh Khan, then you're it. You know, you have the biggest lineup, you have the biggies, you have these crazy things in your kitty. Like, these are the terms used by tabloids. And so when a lot of work started coming my way, my go-to choices to come on board for became the biggies, as we call it, because I'm like, hey, if I'm getting this huge film and the hugeness is defined by who is the male protagonist, purely on the basis of that, okay? And I started doing that and I was like, this is not doing much for me. Like, you do a film and you're happy, there's so much hype, and I will not take away from the fact that because we live in such a deep-rooted patriarchal society, see, everything is a reflection of, nothing is surface level, everything is so deeply webbed. So it just makes you an overnight star when you're seen opposite a big male star. Unfortunately, that's how it functions. So you start equating your worth with the worth of the project or the actor you're associated with. I realized that started happening with me. So if I'm working with an ex-actor and the moment an announcement would come out that, hey, she's a part of this film, and I would get so much attention, I would be like, oh, you know, I'm cool now. And once a film is done, the attention goes away because it never really was yours to begin with, you know? So you earn it with your work over a period of time, with your body of work. That's the only true way to earn it. And this took me back to something my mom used to say when I started off. She's grown up watching a lot of Malayalam films. And the generation of like 60s, 70s, 80s had some really lovely female characters written in Malayalam, played by Shobana, Urvashi. You know, that whole generation of actresses have gotten some fantabulous roles. So she would say, Malu, just pray for really good characters. And she would keep saying that. And to my 21, 22-year-old mind, it didn't make sense. I was like, why is she saying that? You know, she should be telling me, like, pray for, like, really big films and things like that. And then after I went through the whole grind, now I'm like, wow, you were right. It's the only thing that can sustain your career, that can help you make a mark long term, that ensures you're not just I don't mean this in a bad way, but the flavor of the season. You know what I mean? Because people look at it like that. Because she's come to this one industry, she's worked with all the ek round kar diya. They call it that. She's done one round, but wow, now she's doing her second round. I'm like, wow, what is this first round, second round, you know? And again, like I said, let's go back to the fact that all of this was new for me, okay? So there's this one round of working with all the A-listers. And then if you're really popular, you do a round 2. And then I went back and I looked at all the iconic actresses. I mean, because I'm an actor, that's where I try to look at inspiration from. And if you look at a Sridevi, Maitri, Dikshit, if you look at people we remember them for being amazing actors, of course, but also for the roles and the characters they've played. That's the only thing that'll stick at the end of the day. Hence the hustle to just do good roles, which I feel at the initial, like till now, it's been a little rare to come by. I've gotten a lot of, films opposite successful male actors. But I think now I've actively, since the last 1 year, made this gear shift where I'm like, no. It has, like, I need to have something to do in this film, something interesting, something different, something that's also different from the other films I'm doing. But I think, yeah, when you can make a choice, I think it's about the choices you make. But that's easier said than done. Not everyone has a lot of choices.
I want to say that we can carry on chatting about this forever and this will not end. I'm so happy that I got an opportunity to sit with all of you and talk about this and have this conversation. And the Maitri conversation is an ongoing conversation. So my appetite for asking you questions and getting to know more is not going to end with this, but definitely we're out of time. So I'm going to wrap it up here and just thank you guys for joining us today and sharing your views and being so open about, your experiences. And I hope that people find resonance with this. And we're going to meet again.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.